show, Nuanez Now. Watch the show statewide on SWX Montana Television.
I like football!
Now here's your host, Coulter Nuanez.
See those hands? If you're watching on SWX Montana Television, you did. I almost just spilled my coffee everywhere. Welcome in. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, as well as SWX Montana TV. Thanks so much for being here with us. Hope you're having a great Wednesday. Amazing because the sun is shining, which is a rarity in western Montana, particularly Missoula, during these winter months. Yet it's still 10 degrees. But I'll take the sunny and no wind and as cold as you want to make it anytime over the wind that was plaguing the Missoula Valley the last couple days. So hopefully everybody's staying warm out there. It's the Big Sky Documentary Film Festival this week in Missoula, one of my favorite 10-day stretches of the year, the 19th Big Sky Doc Fest here in the Garden City. So very cool that we're getting a chance to host this thing, and very cool that we're getting a chance to go back to theaters and get to watch movies sitting alongside each other. So hopefully y'all get to go check out at least one film. Maybe you want to stream it because you don't want to go out in the cold. Either way, I would highly suggest watching some of the docs because they're very, very fascinating. And we will continue our series of interviews highlighting some of the directors and filmmakers from the Big Sky Doc Fest. So stay tuned for that. We got Ryan and Josh from the film One Road to Quartzsite coming in about 4:30 today. So excited for that, and excited as the week just continues to progress to watch and take in some of these awesome films. It is a Wednesday, so that means we got our normal routine. We're going to hear from Riley Corcoran, the voice of the Grizz, right off the top here in about 5 minutes. And then we're also going to hear from a guy who I have looked up to for most of my career as a journalist, and particularly the last 5 years since I dove into the radio world. Dean Alexander, the longtime voice of the Montana State Bobcats. The state of Montana was very, very lucky to be able to have first Bill Schwanke and then Mick Holeen and now Riley Corcoran and then Dean Alexander, Chris Atterbury. There's been some phenomenal voices of the Bobcats and the Grizzlies, but to have Dean Alexander and Mick Holeen rolling at the same time doesn't get much better than that. Both those guys have such outstanding Montana flavor, and I know that they're just beloved amongst the fan bases. So very excited to have Dean on the show. He's never been on the show before, but, it doesn't take much prep when you're a radio legend like him. So we'll talk some Cat Grizz memories. It is the rivalry games for both the women and men in the rivalry upcoming. But the Grizz, they have some games first. They play Southern Utah, the ladies at home tomorrow, and the men on the road in Cedar City. Then the women's Cat Grizz game, Saturday night, Dahlberg Arena. Men, Sunday afternoon, 3 p.m. down there at Dahlberg Arena, Montana State coming to town. So very excited for the weekend. We'll talk some old memories as part of our ESPN Roundtable with Dean Alexander. We also have a little discussion when it comes to prep hoops. I was fortunate enough to be a part of a presentation for Jocelyn Tinkle last night, one of the great players to ever come out of Missoula in the world of basketball. And she received her 2 Gatorade Player of the Year banners, as well as her Montana High School Association Hall of Fame plaque. I was lucky enough to be able to present it to her, but it got me thinking. She's certainly one of the great players to ever come out of Missoula. She's one of the great prep players in the history of the state of Montana. But where exactly does she rank? 406mtsports.com did, Jeff Welch, the sports editor of 406MT, he did a great series chronicling and ranking the 50 greatest basketball players on the women's side in the 50-year history since Title IX passed back in 1972. So I used some of his list as sort of a guiding point, but it's kind of splicing hairs when you're talking about those top 5 or 6 ever. So we're going to talk a little bit about it because I think it's an interesting conversation and just the resumes that a lot of these ladies were able to compile during their time playing basketball at the high school level in the state of Montana. And then 5:30, Actually, still waiting to hear back from her because we had to sort of rearrange things. So we might be hearing from Alex Eshelman, SWX Montana Television, as part of the Montana State Minute. And if not, we're going to talk some Olympics and maybe talk a little history lesson as well. So there you go. That is your show outlook presented by Brent Wahlberg and the Wahlberg team, official realtors of Grizz Athletics. Any questions in the real estate world, Brent and his team, they're experts and masters of the real estate ropes here in the Garden City, so you can give them a call or just look them up online anytime for any and all of your real estate questions in Western Montana. You want to stream the show? You want to listen to the show somewhere on your mobile platform, your cell phone, your tablet, your laptop? You can always go to our station website, 1029ESPN.com. Click on Listen Live, and you'll find the stream. If you want to be a part of the show, you can always call us and text us, 406-888-1029. That's 888-1029. You're going to want to remember that because our 10th anniversary rolls on. We have been doing the lead segment of the show each Wednesday during February as part of our 10th anniversary celebration with some of the, quote-unquote, founding fathers of ESPN Missoula. Ryan Tutel was here last week, back in the saddle. That was good to hear from him. We've also heard from Dave Cowan, former general manager here at Missoula Broadcasting Company, and Tucker Sargent, former co-host of this show. Tommy Evans is our last, I guess we should say, the grand finale of the 4 interviews that we're going to be presenting you. But there's actually 5 Wednesdays in the month of February, including next week. So Tommy will be on the show next week. Actually, might be March by the time next Wednesday rolls around. But either way, Tommy's been under the weather. He wants to be sharp for this interview. So we're going to do that next week. But throughout this show, we'll have 10 wings for you every 10 minutes, courtesy of the Desperado Sports Tavern and Grill. 10 wings every 10 minutes. All you got to do is wait for me to prompt you and then give us a call or shoot us a text at 406-888-1029. 10 wings every 10 minutes for the 10th anniversary of ESPN Missoula. Let's do it right now. 406-888-1029. Call us. 888-1029. Caller number 1. We got 10 wings to the Desperado Sports Tavern and Grill as part of our 10th anniversary celebration here at ESPN Missoula. I was thinking about, it was so good seeing Ryan yesterday or last week, and it was so good hanging out with him over the weekend as well. As people know, we have a lot of family history. We go back a long ways, and he is a really good friend of mine, and his wisdom has been a guiding light in my life for sure. But I was thinking, we were rehashing some of the funniest moments on this show when it used to be Tutel and Nuanez, our daily radio show together. And I was thinking about this story that he told on me. So for those that know me personally, I have horrific allergies to certain things, particularly animals. I'm really allergic to certain types of dogs, certain types of cats, although we have a cat at my house now, and it doesn't bother me that much. But I'm incredibly allergic to alfalfa, to hay. And so when I first started my journalism career, I lived in Ellensburg, Washington, which is the Timothy hay capital of the world. Timothy hay is what they feed livestock all around the globe. It's the number one type of hay that cattle and things like that eat. Well, Ellensburg's also known as the Windy City. It blows as hard of wind as I've ever experienced anywhere besides probably Livingston, Montana. So that's all to say, as somebody that likes to be outside and walk around and all that, Ellensburg was hell on earth for me in the spring when the wind would get blowing because the hay would get swirling and I wouldn't be able to breathe. I'd have the worst asthma attacks. My eyes would be all swollen. It was awful. Well, when Ryan was still living here, when Tutel was still living here, he has young children, and they got a bunny. A pet bunny, okay. Flopsy, I think is what they called it. And I'm not allergic to bunnies, but, and Ryan is sensitive to this sort of stuff with me, although he does make fun of me relentlessly about it. But I go to their house one time, and I start having this terrible asthma attack. I'm like, what is going on? Why am I having such bad allergies? Turns out it's because the bunny eats the hay. The kids are feeding alfalfa, so there's alfalfa all over the house. I have such a bad allergy attack that I end up getting a full-on bloody nose at his house. And then this matriculates that into us coming in to do the show, and then I get a bloody nose on the show, and he made fun of me so badly for this, and this turned into then what was probably the most infamous promo in ESPN Missoula's history, which was him dogging on me for this, and then me having the bloody nose starting in the middle of the live radio show, and us just cracking up because I just could not keep it together. And they turned that into a minute-long program. One of our old producers did, and so it was the ultimate trolling. But it was fun having Ryan back around, and this has been such a rewarding job. And I got to meet so many cool people because of it. So even with the hilarity and the allergy attacks, very appreciative to be a part, at least, of this 10th anniversary celebration here at ESPN Missoula. Of course, Nuanez Now is coming to you from the Northwest Motorsport Studio. You can find amazing winter savings at Northwest Motorsport. Visit nwmsrocks.com for the largest selection of lifted trucks, diesel trucks, and off-road capable SUVs. Take back control of the road with a new rig from Northwest Motorsport today. How about one more time? 10 wings every 10 minutes for the 10th anniversary of ESPN. Text us, 406-888-1029. We'll give 2 away right now. 2 different textures, 888-1029, 10 wings to the Despo. Do it right now, 406-888-1029. Well, I was so confused yesterday, and we finally figured it out. We were watching the Lady Grizz game in real time while I was on Nuanez Now, and the end of the game, it came down to the wire again, because what else the Lady Grizz do besides either win or lose by Sophia Stiles shots at the buzzer? It's amazing the way that this has played out the last 3 weeks. The Lady Grizz have had 3 games come down to the buzzer and have made 2 buzzer beaters and only won one of said games. Crazy to even think about that. But it's not about the buzzer beater. I was so perplexed yesterday why, when Abby Anderson got a block at the rim with about 4 seconds left, that the Lady Grizz called a timeout and it didn't advance the ball. So then they had to run a play to advance the ball and call another timeout. But Riley Corcoran, voice of the Grizz, who joins me now, he figured it out for me. My head was spinning. I could not figure out what was actually happening. So I thought to myself, there's no way on earth that Brian Holsinger and Nate Harris and Jocelyn Tinkle don't know this rule. There's no way. And so then I was like, oh, the rule must be different. So explain this to people.
Crazy, first off, and I had to do a deep dive when they finally changed the rule for the advance and everything. It has to be a dead ball situation when you advance it. So if at any point you dribble or take a step even, if you don't immediately call timeout the moment you secure the ball, then you have to run another play, and it doesn't count in a dead ball situation. So super confusing, and it's one of those things when you're watching and you're doing your show, it's kind of like, okay, what just happened? That doesn't look right. And the Lady Grizz then have to run another play. Long story short, what happens? Well, those valuable tenths of a second probably were the difference than getting a closer shot to the rim. It's amazing, Coulter. 7 of the last 8 games. We talk about this road swing that the Lady Grizz have been on, 6 out of 7, but 7 of their last 8 games have been decided by 7 points or less. I mean, it's coming down to the end. We've talked about it for weeks. The margin for error is so slim. Coming down to Boise, anyone can win, but I think that's the telling stat, and just another heartbreaker. Up by 14. This one obviously stings. You could build a 3-game winning streak this point of the year. Those are so valuable.
And it's been the Monday games that have thrown off all of the rhythm. I don't even know. I feel so strange about it because we do this for a living. Like, we analyze, we stare. I got texting my sister-in-law. She texted me the other day. She says, wait, so why is there a game on Monday and then another game on Saturday for the women, but not the men on Sunday? What's going on? And I'm like, well, I do this for a living. I still have no idea when the games are. I have no clue.
Well, and it stinks for us, guys like us, too, because we're so cyclical with how we follow games. And with the women being in the afternoon on Saturdays, you get your full dose of it. And I'm even going to take it a step further. And this is a conversation that we're going to continue to have, I think, for the next 2 weeks until the games get played in Boise. How hard is it to really analyze with the unbalanced schedule? And I don't mean unbalanced by who you've played, but more of teams with 7 out of 8 on the road and then a 5-game homestand. And teams, let's just call it this week, like the Montana State teams get all week to prep, whereas the Montana teams have a game on Thursday. It's just so hard because nothing's balanced. And I know it's sour grapes to go down that road and try and pick every single scenario, but it's a true matter of fact this year, Coulter. With the makeup games, I commend the league for, they're going to get every game in, knock on wood, it seems like. But my goodness, the circumstances that have been surrounded by both of these, it makes it really hard to analyze. And even more so, again, another point of why Boise is so wide open on both sides.
But everybody's had to go through it with the cancellations, reschedulings, all that stuff. Everybody's also had players out, but it's why the Montana women are so hard to analyze. You're right, because not only have they had this haphazard schedule, but they also had COVID go through the program, and then they had their best player, one of their best players, but I think their most important player in Sammy Facken go down. And I think it's actually taken her longer to get back than maybe they anticipated. Yet I also think that's part of the plan, too, because they're trying to have her be healthy when it comes to Boise. You don't want her to just go roll her ankle again and then not have the tournament in play, right?
Well, at this point in the season, absolutely. And it sounds crazy. And if there was a chance where you're fighting for maybe the number 1 seed and home court advantage, maybe the circumstances are different. But you're right. At this point, just get her healthy for Boise. And you're right, it's definitely been a lot longer road, and sometimes when you have injuries that bug up middle of the season, the other part of it too, there's been little to no time to rest or practice for this team either, and to try and get her back in the fold, just another interesting dynamic. And I think as we compare maybe the men's situation to what the Lady Grizz are going to right now, what the Lady Grizz do have that the men sometimes don't, Coulter, is that go-to score, and that's what Sammy Fatkin provides when this team goes through lulls of 3 to 4 minutes where they score 1 bucket. Sammy Fatkin is that missing piece, and that's why it's so crucial she's missing games right now.
Voice of the Grizz, Riley Corcoran, joining me here on Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, as well as SWX Montana Television. We are coming to you right now from Finn. We are down here leading up to Riley's Coaches Show. You can always come check it out each week, noon, Tuesdays. Down here at Finn. Beautiful day outside in terms of the sun. I don't know about the weather. That was going to blow away. It was funny because I had some guys from the Big Sky Dock Fest in yesterday, and they're from Minnesota. And they were like, man, it is way colder here than where we're from. And I was like, well, that's coming from Minnesotans. So we are definitely living right here in Missoula, Montana. But, Riley, actually, last night's loss to the Idaho Vandals, the way that it happened for the Lady Grizz was brutal for Montana. But I actually wasn't surprised that they lost that game. It was just the fashion in which they lost it. You play the same team twice in 4 days. The team that wins the first one's going to lose the second one like 9 out of 10 times. That's just kind of the way that it goes, unless there's like a huge talent disparity between those two teams. Like, I mean, not to take cheap shots, but like Montana State and Portland State could play every single weekend for the rest of the time, and Montana State's going to win always. But regardless, that said, probably the most shocking loss of the last week was Montana, the men, losing at Idaho on Thursday. Yet, I said this on the show yesterday, that loss actually became a little less shocking because, don't look now, the Idaho Vandals are the hottest team in the league. They won 3 in a row. That's the longest winning streak in the league after Montana State had their winning streak snapped last Thursday. And this wasn't just beating up on the bottom of the league either. Idaho beat Weber State, Eastern Washington, Montana in 3 consecutive games. Maybe the Vandals are coming around?
I absolutely think they are, and you can feel the vibe and the excitement and what they have building there. Coulter, it's been a long 3 years for Zach Kloss. They won 14 games in a 3-year span before this last week, and I think it's such a microcosm of the Big Sky Conference that the team that would right now be seeded 9th in the conference tournament is the team that's hottest right now in the league. And Idaho definitely is putting it together. They have more talent on the floor than they have had since Don Verlin was there, and now they have belief. And I tell you what, and I hope that you can make a visit over to the brand new arena. They have a different kind of vibe and juice in that arena. I mean, they beat South Dakota State, who's 22-4. They should have beat Long Beach State, who's going to win the Big West. And then they beat Weber State, Montana, and Eastern back to back to back. All that being said, it's still a puzzling loss for Montana. The fact now that their last 3 losses have come to teams that would be seeded 8th, 9th, and 10th. And I think that we have seen maybe a one-off here or there under the Travis DeCuire regime in 8 years. But Coulter, not 3 losses in a row like this. And what's even more puzzling is those 3 losses are sandwiched around impressive wins over Southern Utah and Portland State. So I'm sitting here 1 week later than what we did this last week. And I'm even more puzzled from what I'm seeing from the Grizz basketball team because you know the capabilities there. And I think the big cog in it, you talked about it in your show on Monday, but Brandon Whitney being in foul trouble absolutely took the Grizz out of rhythm. And I think that maybe the lack of depth showed that once he was out of rhythm, they never could get him back going. They never found their mojo on both ends of the floor. He had 8 straight games, double-figure scoring, was uninvolved there. Defensively, we all know what he means. So that was a huge part in it, not to make excuses whatsoever, because Idaho absolutely grabbed that game, deserved the win, coming down 11 with 10 minutes to go.
The whole league is so wacky right now, both sides. I mean, last Thursday, Sac State's women lost after they had established themselves as the hottest team in the league. They lost to Weber State and ended up getting swept over the weekend. Idaho State lost to Northern Colorado. That was a completely unpredictable result. The Lady Cats, we talked about the Lady Grizz loss, Eastern Washington being unacceptable. Well, then Eastern goes into Montana State and hands the Bobcats their second home loss of the conference season. And Then on the men's side, Montana's not the only one that's been struggling the last 2 weeks. Weber State can't win a game. I mean, and you got Northern Arizona looked really good in their trip to Montana. They get swept in that one. Now they don't look good at all. Southern Utah, sometimes they try. They look great. Sometimes they don't try at all. They don't look good at all. It's so weird to watch the league right now. The only team that's really steady like you think they're going to be has been the Montana State Men. Other than that, it's been up and down both sides of the league.
And throw Northern Colorado in there. They do the old weekend of losing to Idaho State and then coming from behind to beat Weber State on Saturday. So the only thing that is predictable is the unpredictability of this league. And I would agree with you. Montana State has shown that they are the most consistent team through 16 games. Why? Because they've taken care of business, albeit if it's a close win or not, they're winning the games they're supposed to for the most part. And that, at the end of the day, is what it's going to be. We sat here maybe in January when Weber State was off to a hot start, Montana was 8-2, thinking, all right, the winner might be 17-3. Well, it's always crazy how this thing works out, that more likely than not, 15-5 is going to win this league. I know Montana State has a nice break before a 4-game gauntlet to end it, but more than likely 2-2 will get them a share of the title, and 3-1 they win it outright. That's 16-4 this year, but they have proven that they are the most consistent team, the senior leadership there from what they've been able to do. This league's wild, Coulter. Matchups are going to be so fascinating down the stretch too, because how many teams would you say, we talked about it with Idaho and the NAUs of the world that come up here and look good against Montana State, how many teams will feel confident they can win one game, maybe 2 games in Boise? I would put that number at probably 8 teams right now, and that's wild to think.
I think every single team in the league thinks they can win a game.
Yeah, I mean, Idaho State, they beat Northern Colorado and Montana the last couple of weeks, so absolutely, maybe everybody but Sacramento State. And,
that's right.
And who knows at this point with what they can do, their final road trips at the Montana schools. So it's going to be fun to watch, but what a wild year in the Big Sky Conference. It could be attributed to a lot of things, kind of as we touched on the last couple of weeks.
Riley Corcoran, voice of the Grizz, joining me, Coulter Nuanez, here on Nuanez Now. A couple random questions for you. First, you mentioned the Idaho Arena. How is it? I've never been there before. I've seen pictures. Is it nice?
It's beautiful. They did a really good job with that. $51 million, and it's, I don't know the exact number, but timber wood beams that they all got from Moscow Mountain. Just a cool twist, and I think it's perfectly built for the Big Sky. Capacity is about 4,200. They're obviously struggling. They still have a mask mandate right now with it as far as filling that arena, but you could feel the excitement, and I would put that, I was talking with the coaching staff about ranking arenas in the Big Sky Conference, and I think you have your historic ones that you kind of see Mountain West when you walk in, and that would be Montana, Weber State, but then Portland State and Idaho are right behind them for what they've done in the league, and this arms race of recruiting and just facilities, Idaho's done a great job.
Take note, Montanans, because there's a variety of ways to build facilities and raise money, and a lot of schools in the Big Sky are doing it in the way that Montana has not done it over the years, Montana and Montana State. Usually Montana State, they got to raise the whole shooting match to be able to build a new building. This branding of an arena like Idaho just did, where the Idaho Central Credit Union is paying for a lot of it, that's very smart. NAU just opened a brand new athletic facility close to $50 million. They only raised $7 million of those dollars. The rest of it is subsidized through the state and subsidized through student athletic fees. So for those that are wondering about the ins and outs of the finances of this all, and by the way, Justin Engel will not join us today because he is getting frostbite up in Whitefish. He's supposed to be skiing. There's no way he's skiing today with his kids. Well, maybe he is. I don't know. He's from the Northeast, so he's crazy. But he won't be joining us today, but we'll talk more about this with him next week because it is a fascinating dynamic. But there's a lot of different ways to raise money in college athletics. We're going to talk later on this week more about the upcoming rivalry game as well as Montana's game before the rivalry game against Southern Utah. But I want to ask you broadly right now, just for a little Cat Grizz conversation, what are some of your Cat Grizz memories? Because you've been the voice of Grizz for 5 years, is that right?
6 years.
6 years, okay. So what, do you remember your first one? What was your first Cat Grizz for hoops?
For hoops. Man, that was the Foul Fest here in Missoula. I'll never forget. Well, everyone turns into a Foul Fest, it seems like. But it was like 91-82, and I remember there being like 52 fouls called in that game, and it was the Mike Ogine show again. I think he was close to 28, 30 points. I remember just the atmospheres, the first couple. For some reason, and I don't know why, I group myself in with coaches as well, but the Tyler Hall game, I think because that was the only time in the last 20 that the Cats had beaten the Grizz, and that individual performance. At the end of the day, we're fans, and we kind of take note of history when we see it.
Sure.
That Tyler Hall game was absolutely phenomenal.
It was one of the best games I've ever seen a guy have.
Yes.
He was so outside of his mind, it was unbelievable. Michael Ogine poked him in the eye one time, and he swished it. And then Bobby Moorhead slapped him in the face one time. He was closing out on him so hard, and he banks it in. Couldn't miss. It was like the best shooting performance. It was the most... I don't even want to say lucky. It was like the most electric shooting performance you've ever seen. I think he missed one shot the whole game.
I want to say he was like 9 of 11, sounds about right. It was so efficient, number one, and you remember this. I think it was right in front of you, but it was in front of the Montana State bench. He had like a fadeaway three. To me, this was the backbreaker because Montana was still staying at arm's length because of their defense and their intensity and Coach DeCure factor, all of that. But with 1 second left to go on the shot clock, it was like a fadeaway three from the right wing, and Hall banked it in. And at that point, I'm thinking, all right, game over. This is just going to be a special performance. But I remember the atmospheres more than I remember the kind of the individual performances. I think you are too. When you see something that's different, and this is of no knock to anybody, so don't think there's a hidden message. But like the first game in Bozeman on a Sunday night, it just didn't have the same effect. Didn't have the games last year.
Well, Bobcat Nation was also hungover from the from the game the day before the national championship game.
So in a way, I'm really looking forward to this Sunday. It's the first true chance, I would say, in almost 3 years for an actual atmosphere for this game, because we didn't have it last year, and then with it being the first game on Sunday. So hopefully, I'm curious your take too. How does the Sunday at 3 o'clock to accommodate national TV affect maybe the extra 1,000 or 1,500 fans that would be there?
Well, I hope that people can just figure it out. I mean, just come. It's fun. I don't know. I have no real sympathy for people that say, "Oh, I just had all this other." I mean, I get you have your life or whatever. Sometimes it gets distracted. I mean, I don't know, man. It's a community event. It takes 2 hours. It's not like, I mean, you know, parking's hard and the traffic, whatever, dude. It's going to take you 20 minutes to come down there. It's not that big of a deal. I would encourage everybody to come because it's going to be a fun game. I'm really excited for the matchup. So I hope people come out. Any other Cat Grizz memories for us before we let you go today?
Well, of course, the women's side of things too. I think when Robin Selvig came in, I think it was 2014, the Cats had not swept the Lady Grizz since the 90s. Yeah. And that was their first opportunity. They do so, and then kind of how that rivalry is flipped to me is also, I know people are probably sitting in their car going, what's the voice of the Grizz talking about Cat memories for? Well, the fact of the matter is, at least on the women's side, the memories for me of how it has shifted. I don't think I'll ever forget the game here in Missoula when Haley Vining hit that to go into overtime, kind of an unsung hero from Great Falls. That was always fun. To me, there's the added element of the women's game being impacted by Montana players. And I just think that always creates that element, whether it's Peyton Ferris going off or for the Lady Grizz down the line who has been able to contribute. But again, the atmosphere on a Saturday night could be really interesting to me with the Lady Grizz game actually being moved up. It's normally that 2 o'clock contest, not the case. So again, it's more about the atmospheres more than anything else, but so excited for this weekend, as we all should be.
So you go, voice of the Grizz, Riley Corcoran, here on Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio. Maybe you're watching SWX Montana Television. More Big Sky Dock Fest, one road to quartzsite. This looks so interesting. A sort of microcosmic example of the tapestry of America, as it were. We have a couple of the filmmakers in studio next as part of our Big Sky Documentary Film Festival interview series. Keep it right here, ESPN Radio. Spring is around the corner, and your backyard probably looks like a minefield. You don't want to go out there and pick up a winter's worth of mess. Montana Pooper Scoopers can help, and it's more affordable than you think. Visit MontanaPooperscoopers.com for more information. You don't want to spend your weekends cleaning up dog poop. Weekends are for golf and washing sports, am I right? For information on a one-time cleanup or scheduled cleanups by visiting MontanaPooperscoopers.com.
Ready to step up your hair game, but just not quite sure where to go? Well, look no further than Compass Barbershop, a modern barbershop for everyone, where they can help you find a style that's right for you. They offer precision scissor cuts and fades in a unique and inclusive atmosphere. Compass Barbershop has it all, including convenient online booking at compassbarber.com, or you can just stop by any day of the week. You can also check out Compass Barbershop on Facebook or Instagram. Find your way to Compass Barbershop, downtown on the Hip Strip, at the corner of modern and retro.
Coral here from The Stone. There's nothing like a pre-ski at The Stone. Warm up by the fire with a hot toddy or check out our happy hour daily from 3 to 6 p.m., 7 days a week. $2.50 Wells, $4 house wines, and specialty tap beers for $3. Or come in for lunch, dinner, and try our Alaskan halibut, our classic shepherd's pie. Delicious food and drinks are waiting for you at The Stone. Just a stone's throw away on North Reserve. Visit thestoneofaccord.com for info on specials. See you at The Stone.
Whether you're in the restaurant business or you just want to host any big event, J&V Restaurant Supply can make sure you have everything you need. J&V Restaurant Supply is your home for everything kitchen. Whether you're a bear or a bobcat, an eagle or a Scotty, J&V Restaurant has everything you might need. They have locations in Bozeman, Billings, and Great Falls. If you can't make it in, J&V also has a great website, jvrestaurant.com. Get everything you need for your next event at J&V, your restaurant specialists. Hey, it's Colter Nuanez from Nuanez Now here with Brent Wahlberg of the Wahlberg team at Windermere Real Estate. It's a complicated real estate market right now. What do you think is the biggest challenge?
This is a real tough market for buyers because what we have right now is an unprecedented lack of available options, low supply. You have to be extra competitive. You've got to make your first offer your strongest offer. Experts like myself in this market can really help people do that.
Call Brent Wahlberg and the Wahlberg team at 529-4663 today.
Hey Missoula, Bone here to remind you that amazing winter savings are at Northwest Motorsport. Visit NWMSRocks.com for the largest selection of lifted trucks, diesel trucks, and adventure-ready SUVs. Get pre-approved, line up a test drive, and even get an appraisal for your trade-in, all online. Don't let the rain, sleet, or snow slow you down. Take back control of the road with an NWMS rig and make your own winter adventure at Northwest Motorsport. And don't forget to tell them Bone sent ya.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
The roller coaster ride continues for the Montana Lady Grizz. Hello, I am Colter Nuanez. What could and likely is the final makeup game of the season for Montana. played Idaho for the second time in 4 games on Monday in Moscow. Thursday, beat UI 76-73 in a game that included 21 lead changes and 14 ties. Monday, the Lady Grizz built its lead to as many as 14 points late in the third quarter, only to let it slip away. Idaho rallied all the way back, led by Beyonce B's 24-point outburst to post a 70-69 win over Montana, despite 20 points from Carmen Gfeller, 16 points from Abby Anderson, 14 points from Sophia Stiles. The month of February has been tumultuous for Montana. Stiles hit a buzzer beater to beat Weber State a few weeks ago, starting a wild stretch that also included a loss to defending Big Sky champion Idaho State at home, beating upstart Southern Utah in Cedar City in a Monday makeup game, losing on another buzzer beater at Northern Arizona, losing to rebuilding Eastern Washington in another Monday makeup game, beating Idaho and Portland State over the weekend, and falling on the third straight Monday to the Vandals. now sits at 9-7 in league play, while Idaho is 7-8. The Montana State women started their 4-game road trip to end the regular season in Portland Monday. The Bobcats moved to 13-4 and into a tie for first place. Idaho State with an 82-57 win over Portland State. The Vikings are 0-15 in Big Sky play.
This 102.9 ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Aspen Sound.
The last verse goes like this here. Well, I was drunk the day my mom got out of prison, and I went to pick her up in the rain. But before I could get to the station in the pickup truck, she got run over by a damn old train.
Well, now we're trying to figure out who this is, because I thought this was John Prine. Welcome back. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, as well as SWX Montana Television. In studio with Ryan Maxey. He's the director of a new film that premieres at the Big Sky Documentary Film Festival called One Road to Quartzsite. And this thing actually premiered last night, but there'll be another showing on Friday as well, 1 p.m. at the Wilma. And I can say with full confidence, I don't think we've played a lot of John Prine or anything like this on this show, but this is what Ryan was singing when he was coming in the studio. So we always let the guests pick the song. So good to have a little new flavor here on ESPN Radio. What's up, Ryan? Thanks for being here, man.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
So first of all, let's talk about last night, because this thing debuted, and so you got a chance for other people to see your sort of work of art. interesting experience and probably a nerve-wracking one as well as a filmmaker. But what was it like for you to have people sort of consume this documentary for the first time?
Yeah, it was wild. It's my first ever feature-length documentary, and so I was quite nervous about how it would be received, and quite nervous to be in a room full of people, and had nightmares about people walking out of the movie, and that didn't happen.
That's great.
Sold out, and people loved it, so I'm happy.
I think the easiest way for me to set this up for our listeners is just to read basically this right off of the Big Sky Documentary Film Festival website. So this is just the couple sentences that they have when you click on the film. It says, a ragtag group of crust punks, libertarians, snowbirds, and elderly folks become unlikely neighbors during their annual pilgrimage to a temporary long-term camping community in Quartzsite, Arizona. Steeped in rural folklore and full of a diverse and quirky set of characters, One Road to Quartzsite is a beautiful, poetic, observational portrait of people trying to live outside the constraints of American society, or just to simply escape winter. So sounds like this is a collection of incredibly eclectic characters. But tell us sort of the backstory of this. What's your connection, first of all, to Quartzsite? What made you want to make a documentary about this phenomenon of people sort of cumulatively snowbirding in this really remote Arizona town?
Yeah, I have a vehicle that I live out of sometimes on the road, and you spend enough time on the road and you eventually pass through Quartzsite, whether it's to get the cheap gas that's there or if you need a free place to stay, because there's a lot of BLM free land around it. And so, yeah, hundreds of thousands of people in the winter migrate there and kind of set up shop like in their RVs or their cars, and they even, like, it's public land, but they build little yards and landscape architect their zone. So it's just an interesting place, immediately an interesting place. But it was also a little bit of a confusing place for me, because it was simultaneously inspiring, but then simultaneously like uncomfortable at times with interactions with folks and political differences and things that sort of like challenged me, but I wanted to explore that and stay there, and so I lived there for quite a while before I took out the camera to sort of tell a lot of these people's stories.
So interesting, because I thought Andrew, our producer, said something so good. He said, the best documentaries make ordinary people seem extraordinary. And this seems like such a coalescence of so many people from so many different backgrounds. So what was sort of the tipping point, though? What made you want to make a documentary about this? Is it just the fascination of how many different characters sort of descend upon this place?
Yeah, I think there's no defined agenda with the piece. It's more of an exploration of a mood of a place, and there's a lot of melancholy there, which I'm attracted to in storytelling. And there's very few interviews in the movie. It's mostly just sort of like the camera, fly on the wall, observing very different people's lives and the little micro conflicts that exist in a place where lots of different people with lots of different belief systems sort of like end up neighbors.
Sure.
Like, and yeah, so.
Like the one clip that I watched was just two gals. It seemed like they had just met each other probably, and they were just sharing some tequila just in the afternoon. And so this is just sort of life on Earth, right?
And they had both lost their husbands,
right?
And they both love tequila, and so I just sort of like sat back for a number of days with them and took hours of footage of them in their RV talking about what's the best tequila. Is it the one from Costco, the Kirkland one, or is it Patron? And then sort of like having a few drinks and remembering their late husbands, and also speaking a little bit about how there's these crust punks in the desert that they're like not super fans of, and how they feel vulnerable being like single women on the road too, and how to sort of like navigate that part of life as well. So
very interesting. One Road to Quartzsite is the film. You can watch it again. It debuted last night at the Roxy, but you can watch it again on Friday, 1 p.m. at the Wilma. Ryan Maxey, the director of the film, in studio with me here on Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio. This is the 19th edition of the Big Sky Documentary Film Festival here in the Garden City. So very cool to have it back. And if you can check out some of these films, I promise you'll be educated and entertained at the same time. So whether you want to go to the theater or you want to stream it online, you always can by visiting the Big Sky Doc Fest website. So often in these films, too, you need sort of a central protagonist, but it sounds as if maybe there's several or a variety of in this film. So is that sort of the case with this collection of people?
That was a big challenge, yeah. To not have a traditional arc of a beginning, middle, and end with one person, and it's kind of jumping around from person to person, and the story really lies in the conflicts of their different belief systems, but that was a hard thing because it's tough to make a movie with so many characters and so much going on and not have it feel just totally like it's wandering around aimlessly. So that's something I struggled with, and I hope it works out.
Yeah, totally. Crust punk. I've never heard this term before. What is that? What is that? What is that describing?
Yeah, like there's. They call themselves by a lot of different names, but yeah, travelers, rainbow kids, crust punks, train hoppers, and they're just basically people who, mostly young people who don't have a home, live out of their backpack,
nomads.
And just sort of like, follow the good weather, but they're also like really rowdy people and they kind of like thrive in chaos, and so do I. So I enjoyed hanging around those people a lot. Yeah.
It sounds like you mentioned that there was sort of a central conflict within yourself for this. Is that the central conflict of this film, though, or is there a separate central conflict?
Well, I think a lot of it ties to conflicts within myself that I'm sort of exploring and challenging myself, living in a place that I wouldn't generally live. But I think one of the big conflicts is like definition of freedom, because there are people there who are like older folks living out their version of freedom that they believe in, and then there are young folks living out a very different sort of type of freedom, and they both feel very strongly about their particular brand of freedom.
Right.
And so, when the old elderly folks in Quartzsite see the young crust punks asking for money on the street, it rubs them the wrong way. They want them out. They're trying to work with city council to get them out, or they're working with BLM rangers to kick them out of there. So their place can be their perfect little place. But that's what's cool, because it's a lot of different people, and it's their perfect little place that they're trying to keep it that way. It's kind of to me a metaphor of our country and struggles that we're going through right now and always.
No question. Ryan Maxey in studio with me, Colter Nuanez, here on Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio. Now, where are you originally from?
Originally from Northern California.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So I've always thought this. My family's from Arizona. We also spent time when I was a little kid in Nevada. Mm-hmm. And those are definitely two of the strangest places in America. There is, because you can find such levels of isolation, right?
Yeah.
And also just sort of the convergence of all sorts of different people coming there for a variety of reasons, whether it's employment or industry or weather, like it is so heavily in Arizona. Yeah. But did you sort of see that too? Because there's some outposts in Arizona where there's a lot of strange folks all over the place, right? So do you sort of see that in this film?
Oh, for sure. There are definite loner vibes in Quartzsite. People that want to go out there and be totally left alone, and so it's endlessly expansive.
Right.
But like I said, you can kind of landscape architect your zone, and there are some people that make a rock driveway that lasts for a mile, and they'll make the driveway, and then they'll put signs keep out at the end of their driveway, and then they'll park their thing way at the end of the driveway. But of course it's public land, so everyone can go, but there are ways of communicating, stay the bleep away from me, you know.
Right.
I don't want anything to do with anybody, and so I feel that in myself too. I'm a people person, but I'm also a loner. I like being alone, and so that's one of the sort of like contrast in my own personality that also exists there. People are going there to be left alone, but they're also like surrounding themselves by tons of people, so they kind of like community, but they kind of want to be like left alone.
Totally. Totally. Well, last thing for you, that without too much of a spoiler alert, what do you hope people take away from it? Is it just sort of this microcosmic example of multiculturalism in America?
Yeah, I don't have an answer for that.
Yeah.
It's something.
I guess whatever everybody takes away from it, right?
It's like with this movie, there's no agenda. It's sort of like presenting a painting, and you look at it, and you take what you will from it, and hopefully it moves you in a certain way, or it creates empathy, or it's just funny. Yeah, whatever it is, I hope it's one of those things.
Well, awesome. If you want to check this movie out here in Missoula, you can do it one more time on Friday, 1 p.m. at the Wilma, or you can always go to the Big Sky Doc Fest website and get yourself one of those all-access passes, or just a variety of different levels of passes, or if you just want to do a once-off, you can do that for $10 as well. So go do that if you were interested in this or any of the other films. Big Sky Documentary Film Festival back in Missoula for the 19th year. Ryan Maxey, the director of One Road to Quartzsite, joining us here on Nuanez Now. Thanks for being here, man. This was great.
Thanks for having me. It's super fun.
A debate on some of the best women's basketball players to ever come out of the state of Montana. I was fortunate enough to present an award to Jocelyn Tinkle last night at Missoula Big Sky, and it got my wheels spinning. Is she the greatest? There's definitely some worthy candidates. We shall debate here on ESPN Radio right after this. Keep it right here, 102.9 FM.
Like most backseat drivers, I'm all about safety. Dad, pothole.
Got it.
So Les Schwab Tires makes my job easy. With surfaces like brakes, steering, and alignment. Those cheap tire centers just throw on tires, and that's it. Now, I'm not telling people how to do their job. Linker. I'm just glad Les Schwab takes safety as seriously as me.
Help keep drivers and backseat drivers safe with Les Schwab Tires. Celebrating 70 years of doing the right thing.
It's in Park, right?
Part of the glory of building a business comes from leaving a legacy to ensure your business continues thriving into the future. Have you asked yourself lately, what is your plan? Forming a personalized business succession plan is essential to know the passion you put into your business will carry on. Nick Tabor at Westpac Wealth is here to help you navigate all your business succession and retirement planning needs. Give Nick a call at 728-6699 and keep the spirit of possibility vibrant while making your future more tax efficient with a personalized business succession and retirement plan for you. Jake Dubeck knows people, and because of his gift of getting to know anyone he crosses paths with, Jake Dubeck understands what makes Montana so great. The Montanans. Whether you're looking to buy or sell real estate in the Helena area, Jake Dubeck should be your first call. Any questions you might have, from the accelerating Montana real estate market to knowledge of the neighborhoods in and around the capital city, if you're in the Helena area, call Jake Dubeck at 406-465-5506. Jake, proud supporter of the Montana State Minute with Danny Sprinkle.
There is still plenty of winter left to enjoy, and Bob Ward's has the gear to help you make the most of it. Right now, you can get screaming deals during Bob Ward's midwinter clearance sale. Find great deals on winter season gear store-wide. Outfit the family for a day on the snow without hurting your wallet at Bob Ward's. Get a new ski package for less. Find outerwear at super low prices, and take a hike with the best prices on winter boots. Bob Ward's midwinter clearance sale is on now. Bob Ward's, sports and outdoors, Montana style since 1917.
Yo, 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 what's up, Montana? Colter Nuanez from ESPN Radio, host of your favorite daily sports talk show, Nuanez Now. We're happy to announce we're rolling over the Montana Football Hour into the Montana Basketball Hour. That's right, the first hour of each Monday's show on Nuanez Now. We'll be talking all things Big Sky Conference hoops, particularly when it comes to the Grizzlies and the Bobcats. So be sure to tune in 4 p.m. every Monday for the Montana Basketball Hour, proudly presented by the Advocates. Remember, you're not alone. You have an advocate.
I'm probably okay to have one more drink before I drive home. I'm probably okay. I open the window to stay alert. Probably okay. I just popped some gum in my mouth.
Step out of the car, please.
I probably made a mistake.
Probably okay isn't okay when it comes to drinking and driving. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. A message brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
This is Nuanez Now on 102.9 ESPN Radio Missoula.
Oh, man, can't wait for June 24th here in Missoula, Kettle House Amphitheater. A little Third Eye Blind. They're killing it over there at Logjam. Bringing me all the shows I want, I know that. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, as well as SWX Montana Television. Coulter Nuanez coming to you from the Northwest Motorsports Studio. You can go check out the largest inventory of trucks anywhere in the Pacific Northwest by visiting nwmsrocks.com. Last night, I had the honor of representing 2 Gatorade Player of the Year awards that were won in 2008 and 2009 by Jocelyn Tinkle, one of the great players, certainly in Missoula Big Sky history, certainly in the history of the Garden City, and certainly in the state of Montana. And we also presented her with the her MHSA Hall of Fame plaque, because she was inducted in 2019, and then pandemic hit, and she wasn't able to actually get the physical plaque. So it was cool for me to be back in my high school presenting somebody I've known for so many years with a cool award. You know, she was teasing me while we were on center court. She's like, I think this means we're getting old. And I was like, yes, I think it does. We're sitting here in our 30s, and we've known each other since we were little kids. And but it was very cool for me, but it got my wheels spinning as well. By the way, it's our 10th anniversary here at ESPN Missoula, and we are giving away 10 wings every 10 minutes, courtesy of the Desperado Sports Tavern and Grill. Let's do, because we didn't do one in the last segment, let's do 3. 3 texts, 406-888-1029. That's 888-1029. Give me 3 different texters. You got 10 wings, courtesy of the Desperado Sports Tavern and Grill, coming at you. If you text in right now, 406-888-1029. Legacy is such an interesting discussion because so many things go into it. And Montana, the state of Montana, has produced such great female athletes over the years. So many of them that did play basketball. But analyzing their careers, there's multiple different things that impact it. What did you do in high school? What were your accomplishments in high school? Then secondarily, where did you go for college? I think sometimes the athletes that stay in state, because they stay in our public consciousness more, sometimes they have an elevated legacy, which is, that's cool. It's a good thing. But on this list of the top 50 women's basketball players in Montana history, Karen Deeden was number 1 on Jeff Welsh's list, ahead of Shannon Cate. And I think that's probably the first list ever when it comes to women's hoops in Montana that Shannon Cate was not on top of. She was named, I believe, one of the 15 best athletes in the history of the state of Montana by Sports Illustrated during their anniversary celebration in 2000. She also was named, Shannon Cate, then Shannon Schwain now, was also named the Big Sky Conference's all-time greatest female athlete when they celebrated their anniversary, their 50th anniversary back in 2013. But Karen Deeden, she had such great accomplishments during her high school career in Montana, and then also during her college career as an All-American at the University of Washington, and then also during her pro career when she played in the ABL, which was the precursor to the WNBA. So she sort of had dominant accomplishments all the way across the board. But I was really thinking about this, just the way that players fit in just in terms of their high school careers. And Karen Deeden was certainly a phenomenal high school player at Missoula Sentinel. She scored 1,891 points and hauled down an unbelievable 1,268 rebounds during her prep career. She was a high school All-American, and she was considered the top center in the United States of America by USA Today when she was coming out of Missoula Sentinel. She then went on to earn Kodak All-American honors during her time at UW, and then she played professionally all across the globe, Japan, France, for the New England Blizzard, all that. Shannon Cate, of course, the all-time leading scorer in the history of the Big Sky Conference until Michaela Ferenz broke that record a couple years ago at Idaho. Cate also was so famous for her Kodak All-American season, her senior year, which is probably the single greatest individual season in the history of the league. not even Damian Lillard was a first-team All-American. Shannon Kate was. And the fact that they went to the NCAA tournament and had success, she had her legendary 38-point game against Wisconsin. That is just the stuff of lore in the league still. So those two are certainly in the conversation, as is Jocelyn Tinkle. But then the other two that I really thought about that have to be in the conversation are Cass Bauer, who comes from Hysham and then went on to play at Montana State, where she was a 3-time honorable mention All-American, and Kayla Lambert. And that's where the discussion sort of has a dichotomy, or I guess a little bit of it needs some nuance to it, because Jocelyn Tinkle was a 4-time first-team All-State performer at the Class AA level. She led Big Sky to consecutive Class AA state championships. She was a 2-time Gatorade Player of the Year, a McDonald's All-American, a Parade All-American. And the other thing about Tinkle that makes her legacy so interesting is she went to Stanford when Stanford was one of the top 3 programs in the United States of America. And Jocelyn was a 1,000-point scorer at Stanford. She went to 3 Final Fours in 4 years. And, oh, by the way, she gets a Stanford education. So it's hard to say that that's anything but a phenomenal choice by her. But I always think, what would have happened if she would have stayed in Montana, if she would have stayed at the University of Montana, followed in her parents' footsteps? Her father, Wayne, was an all-time great Grizz player and then a long-time Grizz assistant and then head coach. On the men's side, her mother, Lisa McLeod, was one of the greatest. Lisa McLeod was the greatest Lady Grizz until Shannon Kate came along. And she was a Big Sky MVP and one of the best players the program has ever seen still. So there was some possibility that Jocelyn would stay in Missoula and play for the Lady Grizz, but instead she goes to Stanford. But Jocelyn had a phenomenally accomplished career in college. If she would have gone anywhere else besides a place that had the Agumekwe sisters and some of the best talent in America, she's probably a 2,000-point scorer. Let's say she even just goes to Washington State or Oregon State or stays in the Big Sky. Her numbers would have been ridiculous. They would have been insane. And so, that impacts just the way that you look at her legacy as well. But then there's also just like the AA versus the smaller schools. Like Cass Bauer growing up in Hysham, she dominated and she was an all-American level player at Montana State. So then playing in the Class C level, okay, of course she dominated. The other one that has to be in the conversation, who's probably doesn't get as much credit for how electric she was to watch, is Kayla Lambert. Kayla Lambert is probably the most prolific. Not probably. Kayla Lambert is the most prolific scorer in the history of high school basketball in Montana. And she's certainly in that hierarchy of phenomenal Native American players and one of the best ever on the women's side, no doubt. During her time at Brockton, which is also a Class C school, she scored 3,453 points. That's an insane number of points in a high school career. That's more than 1,000 than anybody else in the history of the state of Montana to that point. She still holds the state record for points in the game. She dropped 66 once and 65 2 other times. She also one time had a quadruple double, 51 points, 15 rebounds, 10 assists, and 10 steals. Her legacy is impacted, though, because she went to Sheridan Junior College and then returned to Brockton and didn't really go on to play anywhere. She's in the Montana Indian Athletic Hall of Fame, as she should be. But her career sort of fizzled after the high school level. So there's this dichotomy of when you're debating the great high school players in the history of the state of Montana, how does what they did afterwards impact it? So I don't really even know how you really rank these players, because I just think that they're all so deserving and all so good. But it was just fun for me to sort of go down memory lane and also think about Jocelyn and what she accomplished. And, I had a sort of front row seat to that whole journey because she's the same grade and age as my brother, and they were great friends growing up. And so just to see her and know her background and her lineage, and then the fact that she went to Missoula Big Sky and took a team that was probably just a pretty average team and made it to the state tournament 4 times and won the state championship twice. She's definitely the greatest player in Missoula Big Sky history on the girls' side. And she's in the conversation right there with Larry Krastowiak as the greatest Big Sky athlete ever. But she's certainly one of the great players ever to come out of Montana, period. And you just have to wonder if she would have made a different college decision. And again, I'm not saying her decision to go to Stanford is wrong. In fact, if you get a full ride to Stanford, you go. That would be the best life decision you can make, no matter who you are. So just interesting, because if she would have stayed in state or gone, played somewhere more regionally like Washington State or Gonzaga or Oregon or something like that. I just think that her college numbers would be even more accentuated. And then that would have influenced this conversation right now. Just the way that we look at the legacies and lineages of great players that come out of the state of Montana. So very fun for me to be there last night and be a part of that celebration. And congratulations again to Jocelyn. And also great job by the Big Sky people, because they're really doing a good job of sort of revamping and trying to remember the tradition. That is a rich one. There's been a lot of great athletes that came through Missoula Big Sky, and I'm glad that they're making a better effort now to sort of rekindle that passion for that tradition. ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television, it's Nuanez Now. Thanks so much for kicking it with us here on a Wednesday. Hour 1 in the books, Hour 2 coming at you. Very excited for this. A guy I've looked up to for a long time from a broadcasting perspective. Longtime voice of the Montana State Bobcats, Dean Alexander, will join us next as part of our ESPN Roundtable. Cat Grizz Memories. Love going down memory lane. Keep it right here. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio.
The world of real estate is always evolving. That's more true now than ever. If you are a longtime Missoulian that is looking to upgrade or downsize, it might be the best time yet to sell. If you're in the position to buy something new, today might be the best time to buy. And no matter what questions you have when it comes to residential or commercial real estate, Mike Nugent and the professionals at Berkshire Hathaway in Missoula have your answers. To find out what Mike can do for you, give him a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
Have you ever tried yoga?
I haven't.
Then you should try Summit Independent Living's adaptive yoga program to enjoy exercise and improve your quality of life. Summit is offering free online activities promoting fun and friendship for those living with paralysis and other disabilities, their families, and caregivers who may experience isolation or loneliness due to COVID-19.
Find Summit Independent Living on Facebook. Go to summitilc.org. Call 406-728-1630. Activities funded by the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation.
Did you know Montana's smokeless tobacco rates are twice as high as the national average for both male youth and male adults? That's why Tobacco-Free Missoula is promoting Through with Chew Week. This week is dedicated to educating Montanans about the health risks associated with smokeless tobacco. One of the most important things you can do for your overall health is to be tobacco-free. For help quitting, call the free Montana Tobacco Quit line at 1-800-QUIT-NOW or visit quitnowmontana.com. Start your tobacco-free journey today.
Attention high school seniors and your parents, scholarship applications are available now at farmersebank.com. 10 $10,000 scholarships will be awarded this year. That's $100,000 to Montana high school grads. Review the qualifications and fill out an application today at farmersebank.com. Hurry, the deadline is March 15th. Farmers State Bank, your Montana bank since 1907. Member FDIC.
Last week on the ESPN Roundtable, Colter Nuanez and Andrew Houghton discussed the NFL offseason, including the potential future for the Super Bowl champion Los Angeles Rams.
But more than anything, I think the linchpin of this whole thing is Aaron Donald. How long does he want to play? If he decides to play through the end of this contract and then wants another one, what's that going to be worth? Because he's already broke the mold once.
Tune in to the ESPN Roundtable every Wednesday in the 5 o'clock hour on Nuanez Now. The ESPN Roundtable is brought to you by Paradise Falls.
How do you define strength? Is it physical? Or is it mental? Maybe it's both. Maybe it's whatever empowers a person to dig deeper, fight harder, and overcome obstacles that once seemed insurmountable. Discover how much stronger and more confident your children can be. Encourage them to participate in a sport when they go to high school.
This message presented by the Montana High School Association and the Montana Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
The roller coaster ride continues for the Montana Lady Grizz. Hello, I am Colter Nuanez. What could and likely is the final makeup game of the season for Montana. played Idaho for the second time in 4 games on Monday in Moscow. Thursday, beat UI 76-73 in a game that included 21 lead changes and 14 ties. Monday, the Lady Grizz built its lead to as many as 14 points late in the third quarter, only to let it slip away. Idaho rallied all the way back, led by Beyonce B's 24-point outburst to post a 70-69 win over Montana. Fight, 20 points from Carmen Gfeller, 16 points from Abby Anderson, 14 points from Sophia Stiles. The month of February has been tumultuous for Montana. Stiles hit a buzzer beater to beat Weber State a few weeks ago, starting a wild stretch that also included a loss to defending Big Sky champion Idaho State at home, beating upstart Southern Utah in Cedar City in a Monday makeup game, losing on another buzzer beater at Northern Arizona, losing to rebuilding Eastern Washington in another Monday makeup game, beating Idaho and Portland State over the weekend, and falling on the third straight Monday to the Vandals. UM now sits at 9-7 in league play, while Idaho is 7-8. The Montana State women started their 4-game road trip to end the regular season in Portland Monday. The Bobcats moved to 13-4 and into a tie for first place. Idaho State with an 82-57 win over Portland State. The Vikings are 0-15 in Big Sky play.
This ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Selway Armory.
You know this is gonna leave my broken heart behind her. But do what says getting yeah. You know this is gonna leave this broken man behind.
What's up, Montana? Welcome back. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, as well as SWX Montana Television. Hope you're having an outstanding Wednesday. We're coming to you from the Northwest Motorsport Studio. Appreciate you hanging out with us. Missed anything in the first hour of Nuanez Now. We heard from Riley Corcoran, the voice of the Grizz, talking Big Sky hoops, both on the men's and women's side. We also had Ryan Maxey in from the film One Road to Courtside, a documentary as part of our Big Sky Documentary Film Festival interview series. And talked a little bit about legacies of high school basketball players. A text in from a listener, by the way, that reminded me about Jill Barta, who was a great player at Fairfield as well. Went on to play at Gonzaga and was a first-round pick in the WNBA draft. She's certainly up there in the conversation as well. She was a phenomenal athlete herself, and definitely one worth remembering on that list. You can find everything from the first hour of today's show on the Nuanez Now podcast, which is proudly presented by Sportsbet Montana, as well as the Advocates. It's our 10th anniversary here at ESPN Radio. So throughout the month of February, we are giving you an opportunity to win 10 wings every 10 minutes, courtesy of the Desperado Sports Tavern and Grill. All you have to do is call and or text us. So keep those calls and texts rolling in. Every time I prompt you, bring it on. And we got 10 wings from the best wing spot in the city of Missoula coming on in. So please keep them rolling. 406-888-1029. That's 888-1029. Call and or text. We got 2 more winners coming your way. So either call us or text us, 888-1029. It's time now for our ESPN Roundtable, presented proudly by Paradise Falls. And right now, things at Montana State going pretty darn good. You got the Bobcat football team, who played in the national championship for the first time since 1984. Got the MSU women's basketball team, who's working on their 4th Big Sky title in the last 6 seasons. And you got Danny Sprinkle, one of the favorite sons to ever come out of Montana State, leading his alma mater on the men's side. And the Bobcats, they're off to their best start in almost 40 years. They're 21-6 right now. They just had their 11-game winning streak snapped last Thursday, but they've now won 17 out of 19, and they have it in their sights. The Bobcats have never won more than 21 games during their Big Sky Conference history, which dates back to 1963. So it's going pretty darn good at Montana State. But they have an opportunity in men's hoops on Sunday to sweep the University of Montana for the first time in a long time. If the women sweep, it'll be the extension of multiple sweeps. I think it's been 5 years in a row now where the Montana State women have swept the Lady Grizz. But this week on the ESPN Roundtable, a guy who I've looked up to and admired quite a bit throughout my career, first as a sports writer and now as a radio broadcaster, and a guy with a name that resonates around the state of Montana, the longtime voice of the Montana State Bobcats, Dean Alexander, joins us here on Nuanez Now. Dean, thanks so much for being here, man. How you doing?
Hey, great, Calder. Good to be with you. I wish we both were on the golf course, but that'll be a while.
I know. Right now, when it's about -10, I find myself dreaming of golf even more often. But I think that this is
amen.
This will be so fun to recap some of this stuff with you because you had a front row seat for so many of these previously historic accomplishments. You talk back to 37 years since MSU went to the national championship game in football, and it's been so many years since this, that, and the other thing, but you were the voice of the Bobcats for so many of these great runs from yesteryear. So, first of all, just a broad question. What do you think of just the state of athletics at Montana State right now? Because it seems like Leon Costello and the crew, they got it rolling pretty good there at MSU.
Boy, it is. I mean, it is amazing. I mean, Trish got it going and has kept it going, and then Danny comes in, and he's had, in the middle now of his third year, and I mean, it's just been an incredible year, and it's something you're seeing it, but I won't say you don't believe it, but I mean, it is just amazing. You highlighted, some of the stuff that's gone on already, and when Danny came back, of course, that was the big hope that he could get it done, and he's done everything right, obviously, on the court and recruiting and getting out around campus and town and meeting people and literally asking them to come to the games, and it's worked well.
Danny Sprinkle was a great player at Montana State. His greatest legend was when he was a freshman, and he had the outstanding shooting performance to win Big Sky Tournament MVP and lead the Bobcats to their last Big Sky Tournament title and subsequently their last NCAA tournament berth. When you were calling games when Sprinks was playing, did you see a future as a coach, or what were you sort of thinking of this evolution as a guy that was such a great player and then was an assistant for so long, paid his dues, and now back at his alma mater leading the way?
To tell you the truth, I was somewhat surprised when he became an assistant, and he was down at Cal State, Northridge, and Fullerton, and Northridge again, or vice versa, whatever it was. But that kind of surprised me as an assistant. And then he came up here, obviously, as an assistant with MSU for a couple of years. And that was fine because I know, how it works. The assistants always want to be the head guy. But Danny's always been Danny, and I didn't see anything there or hear anything or catch anything like he was wanting to move into the first chair. And so then he gets down there in California again, and the next thing you know that they have some meetings, and you hear that Sprinkle's coming back, and he's going to be the head guy. And so you say, okay, and nothing against anybody, but those two programs he was with down in California and even MSU at the time when he came back weren't exactly, tearing up any league anywhere. But obviously he was paying attention, doing his homework, and he had his idea of what it should or could be. And then also, as you mentioned, that he played on maybe the best team ever, for the Bobcats of the modern era in 95, 96. So he had been there, done that when it happened here. And obviously he had a vision. And guess what? It's working pretty good.
It's so interesting, too, because Mick Durham was such a great coach at Montana State. He had a great 16-year run there. And the Bobcats were more successful consistently under Coach Durham than probably most of the time during their Big Sky Conference history. But then since Mick resigned and then went up to Alaska, Montana State has sort of success beyond just sort of a middle of the league finish. Has sort of eluded MSU, but now Sprinkle's got them back toward the top. When you watch this year's Bobcats, do they look like? Is there any Mick Durham influence? I guess is what I'm asking.
Yeah, his name is Danny Sprinkle.
Right.
He believe me, he learned from the master, and he gives credit to Mick. And you talk to Danny, you talk to Mick, and I know they talk to each other, and they've always been close. But obviously, you see a lot of Mick and Danny in his coaching mannerisms, and in his style. And one thing that they both did, Mick did, and Danny does now, if you watch him from the beginning of the game to the end of the game, Danny Sprinkle is Danny Sprinkle. He's not after the reps. He's not chewing a guy out or doing anything, playing to the fans. Danny is, just straight right across, and you watch his team, and there aren't many highs or lows. I mean, it's pretty steady. They're going from point A to point B, and they're not going to be led in any misdirection or whatever. And then his substitutions have been unbelievable. Everything has just worked out well. But to back up what you asked, there is a lot of Mick Durham in Danny Sprinkle, and that's in a positive manner.
Dean Alexander joining us here on the ESPN Roundtable. Dean, the voice of the Montana State Bobcats for nearly 30 years. And, Dean, let's talk about some of your favorite memories, because the rivalry game is on the horizon, and there's been some phenomenal games between the Bobcats and the Grizz. You were on the call for many of those men's basketball games. I actually believe that your last call was in Missoula back in 2002 when you first retired from your seat as the voice of the Bobcats. But when you think about the Cat-Grizz rivalry, what are some of the best memories that come to mind when you think about the men's side of this clash?
Well, let's go back to 1976 when there was a dirt floor in the field house, and Judd Heathcote was coaching the Grizz, okay? So you get down to the nitty-gritty. By the way, with the dirt floor in there, you're in the dead of winter, and there'd be dust, flying up or whatever. But the court was elevated, and they had support wires, guy wires, on the back of the backboards going up, to hold the backboards. And so it gets down to the nitty-gritty, and Paul Kinney, left-handed guard for the Bobcats, fires one up, and it goes in and out and goes straight up, and apparently hits one of the guy wires and comes back down through. Game over, and Judd goes crazy. Okay? Hello?
We still got you, Dean. Yep.
Okay, and so Judd goes crazy, and if anybody remembers Judd Heathcote, his head would kind of be like a bobble-headed doll that someone had hit it, going back and forth. And in those days, obviously, we didn't have the video replay, so you'll never know. And I can't swear myself that it hit one of the guy wires, but I would say it just seemed like it hung up there for a little bit before it came back down through. And it was a low-scoring game. It was like 57-55, I think, was the final on that one. So that was one of my early ones, obviously, that I really enjoyed. You have Mike Montgomery coaching down at Reno, and they were the shoe-in, supposedly. And the Bobcats went in 11-15 and won 82-77 over the Grizz in the title game, and went on to play St. John's. And that was it for Montgomery in Missoula. But same thing, frozen in time. It's like he stood there and couldn't believe it, and there were several thousand others there who couldn't believe that one either. And then you reverse it, and when Donnie Holtz was coaching the Grizz, and that was in Bozeman, and everybody favored the Bobcats, it's in Bozeman, you got it going. Grizz take what appeared to be the last shot and missed it, but guess what? One of the Grizz comes flying down the lane with the follow and jams it home. Game over, Grizz win, and the Grizz go to the NCAA, and the Bobcats go to the NIT. So I guess turnabout is fair play, so to speak.
It's so interesting, too, during the Stu Starner era at Montana State, because you mentioned those times when Mike Montgomery was sort of denied to the NCAA tournament. Crazy to think Mike Montgomery, the success that he had throughout his coaching career. I mean, he won over 650 games, led Stanford to the Final Four, coached the Golden State Warriors, coached at Cal Berkeley, but he actually never went to the NCAA tournament out in Montana, which is wild to think about, especially considering he had guys like Larry Krystkowiak and Wayne Tinkle playing for him. But also so much of the part of that legend of those Bobcat teams in the 80s was, I think people forget this, the Big Sky Conference was the first league in America to institute the three-point line. And the Bobcats, some of their great wins during that Stu Starner era came because of their mastery of the three-point shot. So, I mean, how much of that influenced it? And when you were calling games, how big of a deal was that when the three-point line was first instituted? And how much was Montana State able to take advantage of that element?
Well, that probably saved their bacon, so to speak, in many games, because a lot of times in there you didn't have the inside guy to get it done, so you're firing away, and then you take it all the way up a little bit further, as you alluded to earlier, with Danny Sprinkle being the king of three-pointers for a lot of years. It took Tyler Hall to come along probably to erase a lot of that Danny was just considered to be the all-time three-point shooter. You had Craig Finberg early, but there wasn't the three-point line, and Durham was feeding him the ball, and everybody always said, boy, it would have been interesting if there'd been the arc when Finberg was playing for the Bobcats at what he could have done with that. But it changed things, yeah, because the game changed a little bit. I mean, it was like, what would you say? The green light was on always for the three-pointer, and especially with mixed teams, where the three-point, that's just another shot. Go ahead, fire away. It'd make you cringe sometimes because they were firing away, but they weren't going in. But other than that, I mean, it was a big part of the offense.
Dean Alexander joining us here on the ESPN Roundtable. It's Nuanez Now. You're listening on 102.9 FM, ESPN Missoula, as well as watching statewide, SWX Montana Television. Dean, the longtime voice of the Montana State Bobcats, rehashing some memories from all the way around the history of Montana State, but specifically focusing on men's hoops because the rivalry game comes around on Sunday. It's 3 p.m. Dahlberg Arena. I know it's a little weird. We haven't really had any Sunday rivalry games, at least not in my 15 years covering the Big Sky Conference. So sort of strange, but there'll be not the normal doubleheader like we've gotten used to recently with the women in the afternoon and the men at night. Instead, the women will take center stage on Saturday night at 7 p.m. at Dahlberg Arena, and then the men 3 p.m. on Sunday. Dean, I know you still follow Bobcat athletics very closely. So when you watch this team, what do you think of this specific team? Because you mentioned Sprinkle's done a great job recruiting a roster that seems to fit together, seems to really love playing together. But how would you just describe sort of the style they play in, and what do you think of just the run that they've been on so far this year?
Okay, well, let's look at the roster. He has 9 freshmen, 2 of them are redshirting, 4 sophomores, 1 junior, 3 seniors. So you can see whatever they're doing, you get your hopes up for the old word potential that gets coaches fired. But you could see that what they're doing now, they should be able to continue it, because Danny's going about 7, 8, 9, 10 deep, sometimes 11 deep in those games. And the thing is, from those who've seen a lot of basketball and watched them and watched the Bobcats, and I'm in that group with them, this is probably as much talent on one Bobcat team as we've seen in the last, say, 50 years. It's deep, because he can go to the bench and it's like there's literally nothing lost. And here they come in, and they had one of the coaches, might have been Idaho State, I'm not positive, but said they just wore us out because, they just kept running those guys in, and we just ran out of gas. And that's about the way it is. And if you look at it, he goes to the bench and he'll bring in, say, the youngster that was the player of the year in Wyoming, bring in the one from Alaska who was the player of the year in Alaska. Then he's got, of course, Germer for Montana player of the year, but he's redshirting. So you get these guys of that quality. Then you get, in my experience here, the only 4-star player Montana State has ever had, and that would be Raekwon Battle, who started out at the University of Washington. And he has literally, it's so obvious, gotten better every game, and you can see why he is a 4-star, because he hasn't reached his potential yet, but he's a crowd pleaser, and it's just so much talent, it's unbelievable. And he's coming off the bench. That's where they are. You have Bello goes out in the middle, and who comes in for him? Great Osobor, another guy from London, who's about the same size, on and on and on. And Osobor is only a freshman. So I think it's the depth, and I think as we're getting to this time of the season, I think any coach would pray that they would have the depth that the Bobcats have, because it gets to be tough now. You look at the number of games they have coming up in the next week, where they're going Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and then you're going to go to the Big Sky tournament. And if you're going to win it, you're going to have to win at least 3, depending on where you're seated, maybe 4. But for the Bobcats, where they're going to be, and the Grizz likewise, it's going to be 3 games. And that's a tough 3 games. So they have the talent, they have the depth. And Danny told me 2 things at the first of the season. 2 of his toughest things would be, one with this team would be finding them all playing time, keeping them happy. And so far, that's worked out. And the other thing in the long run, where you look at it, scheduling is difficult, because basically nobody will come here. So you're going on the road. Witness the game that Colorado could have, should have won, the game at Mexico could have, should have won. But those are the kind of games you're going to have to book. So that's the deal. So sometimes you can't judge by the overall won-loss record, but you can judge by the level of competition. And those 2 games probably are serving the Bobcats well now at this time of the season, as they're going a run down the stretch.
ESPN Roundtable, presented by Paradise Falls in Missoula. You need a place to watch the action, whether it's Saturday night with the women's Cat Grizz game or Sunday afternoon with Montana State traveling to Missoula. Can't make it to the game? Paradise Falls will have all your action covered for you. They also are streaming all the district and divisional tournaments from the high school levels as well. They got 30 big screen TVs and 18 draft beers, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So swing by Paradise Falls, located 3621 Brook Street here in the Garden City. Paradise Falls, Missoula's coolest hotspot. Dean Alexander, a longtime voice of the Montana State Bobcats, joining us to rehash all sorts of memories. And Dean, before we let you go, you mentioned about the run of football, but I want to ask you a little bit more about that, because to me, unfortunate that Montana State lost in the championship game, because that was the one missing element to being among the greatest sports stories we've ever seen in the state of Montana. You come to Missoula and you get hammered by the Grizz, and that is this domino effect that lets this young baby-faced kid from Butte, America rise to such levels of prominence and stardom in such a short amount of time. And Tommy Mellott galvanizes this team to go on this epic run. And you have all these awesome characters from Troy Anderson to Daniel Hardy to Ty Okada and, of course, Tommy Mellott. Unbelievable the run that they went on, even if they did fall one step short in the national championship game. But what did you think of the run? Because as a guy that's been so tied to MSU athletics for so long, this must have been a pretty cool moment for you as well.
Yeah, it was. I mean, the Grizzly thing, you just wondered at that, did that do it? Because that could have, killed the season, basically. That could have been it. But the thing is, and I'll give Coach Vegan the credit on that, that was a big move. You take a freshman quarterback who's, played as a sub in and out, played on the special teams and so on. Granted, he had great high school numbers and whatever, but he's a freshman. You're going into the tough part of the season. You stick him in there, and boy, it was incredible. I mean, that's a Hollywood movie if I ever saw one. It was one of the greatest performances by a team and by an individual that we've had, in Bobcat football. That was fantastic.
Well, it's very fantastic, very fun to be along for the ride, and it's very fun just covering sports and the arc of the rivalry right now. And Dean, thank you so much for being here. Very honored to have you on. I've looked up to you throughout my entire career, and cool having you on the show. You're welcome back anytime, and best of luck with everything, but I'm sure we'll cross paths soon. In the meantime, I'll look forward to seeing you on the golf course here in a couple of months.
Hey, amen, Calder. My pleasure, and I hope, to see you soon on the golf course. Have a great one. Enjoy the show.
What a legend, man. Dean Alexander. Makes me happy. Super cool. Awesome to have Dean swing by. I actually don't even have a good excuse for why he's never been on the show before. As you can tell, he's phenomenal at doing radio. That was a great interview. So just very, very cool for me as just a kid who grew up in Montana, knowing about Dino and his prowess on the mic and his powerful voice. And what a memory, man. I mean, shoot, he knows this Montana State team as well as anybody in its current iteration and also the history of MSU athletics as well. So happy to have Dean on as well here on the ESPN Roundtable. ESPN Roundtable presented each week by Paradise Falls of Missoula. How about a little bit more Montana State talk? Alex Eshelman, SWX Montana Television, swings by for our Montana State Minute. Keep it right here. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio.
Like most backseat drivers, I'm all about safety. Dad, pothole.
Got it.
So Les Schwab Tires makes my job easy. With surfaces like brakes, steering, and alignment. Those cheap tire centers just throw on tires, and that's it. Now, I'm not telling people how to do their job. Linker. I'm just glad Les Schwab takes safety as seriously as me.
Help keep drivers and backseat drivers safe with Les Schwab Tires. Celebrating 70 years of doing the right thing.
It's in park, right?
There is still plenty of winter left to enjoy, and Bob Ward's has the gear to help you make the most of it. Right now, you can get screaming deals during Bob Ward's midwinter clearance sale. Find great deals on winter season gear store-wide. Outfit the family for a day on the snow without hurting your wallet at Bob Ward's. Get a new ski package for less. Find outerwear at super low prices. And take a hike with the best prices on winter boots. Bob Ward's midwinter clearance sale is on now. Bob Ward's. Sports and outdoors. Montana style since 1917.
Hey, Missoula. Bone here to remind you that amazing winter savings are at Northwest Motorsport. Visit NWMSRocks.com for the largest selection of lifted trucks, diesel trucks, and adventure-ready SUVs. Get pre-approved, line up a test drive, and even get an appraisal for your trade-in. All online. Don't let the rain, sleet, or snow slow you down. Take back control of the road with an NWMS rig and make your own winter adventure at Northwest Motorsport. And don't forget to tell them Bone sent ya.
Now, the Montana Club's happy hour features BOGO beverages. Our expertly mixed cocktails, microbrews, domestics, and wine are buy one, get one free 7 days a week from 3 to 5:30. Stop in on Friday for Montini night. Sip on a top shelf martini for only $6, 5:30 to close. When you've worked hard all day and are ready to relax, the Montana Club has got you covered with BOGO happy hour 7 days a week, 3 to 5:30 on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
buying or selling a home can be an intimidating task. Brent Wahlberg and the Wahlberg team of Windermere Real Estate are here to make you feel comfortable no matter where you're at in the process. The official realtors of Grizzly Athletics have more than 4 decades of experience in Western Montana. Brent and his team can not only find you your perfect home or buyer, but they can also teach you about the great city of Missoula and its tradition-laden sports teams. The Wahlberg team works as a family to help fulfill your real estate needs all over Western Montana. If you need help with residential, land, investment, or commercial, give Brent Wahlberg and the Wahlberg team a call today.
Back by popular demand, Zootown Sports Cards presents the Missoula Sports Card and Collectibles Show. Check out exceptionally rare and coveted cards and goods from more than 40 vendors from around the state and region. It's all going down at the Doubletree Hotel Saturday, April 2nd, 10 till 5. Admission for attendees is free. JSA authentication will be on site, so come check out the hottest in the memorabilia industry at the Missoula Sports Card and Collectibles Show at the Doubletree, April 2nd. Presented by Zootown Sports Cards of Missoula.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
The roller coaster ride continues for the Montana Lady Grizz. Hello, I am Coulter Nuanez. What could and likely is the final makeup game of the season for Montana. played Idaho for the second time in 4 games on Monday in Moscow. Thursday, beat UI 76-73 in a game that included 21 lead changes and 14 ties. Monday, the Lady Grizz built its lead to as many as 14 points late in the third quarter, only to let it slip away. Idaho rallied all the way back, led by Beyonce B's 24-point outburst to post a 70-69 win over Montana, fight 20 points from Carmen Gfeller, 16 points from Abby Anderson, 14 points from Sophia Stiles. The month of February has been tumultuous for Montana. Stiles hit a buzzer beater to beat Weber State a few weeks ago, starting a wild stretch that also included a loss to defending Big Sky champion Idaho State at home, beating upstart Southern Utah in Cedar City in a Monday makeup game, losing on another buzzer beater at Northern Arizona, losing to rebuilding Eastern Washington in another Monday makeup game, beating Idaho and Portland State over the weekend, and falling on the third straight Monday to the Vandals. Now sits at 9-7 in league play, while Idaho is 7-8. The Montana State women started their 4-game road trip to end the regular season in Portland Monday. Bobcats moved to 13-4 and into a tie for first place. Idaho State with an 82-57 win over Portland State. The Vikings are 0-15 in Big Sky play.
This ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Selway Armory. What up, Montana? Welcome back. A little incubus for you here on a Wednesday. Hope you're having an outstanding week. Hope you're staying warm out there. It's Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, as well as SWX Montana Television. Coming to you from the Northwest Motorsport Studio. Northwest Motorsport, they boast the largest inventory of trucks anywhere in the Pacific Northwest. You can see that entire inventory that spans over multiple different states by visiting online at nwmsrocks.com. I appreciate Northwest Motorsport for being the presenting sponsor of the Nuanez Now studio. Time now for the Montana State Minute. We do this a couple times a week, checking in with Danny Sprinkle, the Montana State head men's basketball coach, as well as Alex Eshelman from SWX Montana Television. And before we get into that, though, it is our 10th anniversary here at ESPN Missoula. We are going to continue to give you an opportunity to win 10 wings every 10 minutes, courtesy of the Desperado Sports Tavern and Grill. 10 wings every 10 minutes. All you got to do is call us, or text us, because Alex is waiting on the phone line. So we'll get to her in just a minute. But text us, 406-888-1029. That's 888-1029. We'll give 2 more away right here. 10 wings every 10 minutes, courtesy of the Despo, 888-1029. The Montana State Minute is presented in part by J&V Restaurant Supply. J&V Restaurant Supply, your home for everything kitchen. Whether you're a bear or a bobcat, an eagle or a Scotty, you can score big with J&V. They have locations in Bozeman, Billings, and Great Falls, but if you can't make it in, J&V also has a great website, jvrestaurant.com. J&V Restaurant Supply, proud sponsors of athletics across the state of Montana for more than 45 years, and your restaurant specialists. Alex, I know that you are a California girl who then went to college in Arizona, so are you surviving? Are you doing okay? I've been worried about you.
I am, thank you, Coulter. I appreciate that. I I'm going to go by what Sean Rainey tweeted earlier today, and I completely agree with him. He said, I'd rather have 5-degree weather and it's completely sunny over 30 degrees and cloudy and rainy, and I couldn't agree more. I mean, as long as it's not windy, which today in Bozeman, it wasn't really windy in comparison to the few days before today. And the sun was shining, and yes, it's cold, but as long as you know how to drive in it and dress in it, I think I've been okay. Thank you for asking. How are you doing?
I'm doing phenomenal. I love when it gets cold like this. I think it's a great acclamation for all of the new people that have moved to the two college towns in Montana, Missoula and Bozeman. If you want to live here, that's great, but you have to endure the winter. You need to prove to me you can do it, and so you're doing a great job of displaying exactly that. And I hope everybody else is getting used to it. Yeah, for sure. Well, no doubt about it. Well, it's a busy time of year for sure. We got district and divisional tournaments raging on at the high school level, and this weekend there's going to be two big events going on in the state of Montana. First, the Big Sky Indoor Track and Field Championships begin on Thursday in Bozeman. I'll be there Friday to broadcast live from there. But then coming back over to Missoula because we got a Cat Grizz rivalry showdown, two different games on two different days for the first time in a long time. The women play 7 p.m. on Saturday night, and the men play at 3 p.m. on Sunday afternoon. But first, Alex, I want to ask you about last weekend. The MSU women's basketball team had their final two home games, including a senior day celebration for both Ashley Van Sickle and Gabby Maki, and they had a great performance. They drilled Southern Utah, won by 21 points, and sent their two seniors out in style. So what did you think of the performance on Saturday and sort of the special moment it was for a couple gals that have dedicated a lot of their time and effort to Montana State women's basketball?
Definitely, Coulter. Gabby Maki and Ashley Van Sickle, they had great speeches after the game. They had a wonderful ceremony between the fans, what Coach Ben said about the two seniors, and the rest of the team kind of rallying around them and cheering them on. It was a really special moment, and both of those players have been key components not only this year but throughout their past 4 years of being a part of the program. And I think that win was definitely needed for the program, and I think it was a complete performance. I think that to be able to win for your final home game of the season sends you off for the rest of the year. I think that's always kind of a bucket lister to be able to get that win for the final home game of the regular season, especially for those seniors. So I think it was a great day for the program. I'm really interested to see how they do on the road here for the remaining portion of the regular season. But I do think that kind of catapults them with getting that win on a positive note going on the road.
3 games on the road for the MSU women to finish the regular season. They're at Montana Saturday night, 7 p.m. Then they also play at Sacramento State next Wednesday, and then at Northern Colorado next Friday. So one day earlier than we're used to because the Big Sky Tournament is on the horizon, and the women's part of the Big Sky Tournament in Boise starts a couple days earlier than the men's tournament. So as it always is, the last couple games are always moved up a day or two to facilitate everybody getting their travel to get to Boise. But I was high on this MSU team coming out of last year and thought that they had an opportunity to be very competitive in this league, but I didn't know if they were going to quite be a championship caliber team. Yet here they are. That victory over Southern Utah moves MSU to 13-4 in league play, and they are tied with Idaho State for the conference lead, and they already have a win over Idaho State. They split the regular season series with the Bengals. But at Montana State, they have it in their sights right now. If they could continue their winning ways down the stretch the last 3 regular season home games, a Big Sky championship is definitely in the sights for the MSU women. So what have you thought of just their ability to sort of chase this thing and maybe even slightly exceed what were already high expectations?
Definitely, Coulter. I think here's the deal. Coach Ben, she's been here 17 seasons. She knows what it takes, and she's a champion as a coach. I think she understands what it takes. I mean, I think that's just kind of the expectation for the program. I think under Coach Ben and the rest of her coaching staff, that's kind of the mentality, and the championship level mentality is what is expected. And you can definitely tell that. Obviously, they've had ups and downs throughout the season, but I do think that it's something that, they don't count themselves out despite having those ups and downs and having imperfections throughout the season. I think that every single year, that's why everybody loves March so much. And March basketball is anything can happen. Anybody can come out and pull off a championship win. And I think that that's just the mentality that they have. I think that losses and, obstacles that they face throughout the season doesn't get them down. I think that's definitely a key point to what makes this group special this year.
Montana State Minute, presented in part by Jake Dubeck, your Montana realtor. Alex Eshelman from SWX Montana Television joining us here on Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio. Whether you're looking to buy or sell in the world of real estate in the Helena area, Jake Dubeck should be your first call. Any questions you have, from the accelerating Montana real estate market to what a perfect future might look for you and your family, to somebody that knows the neighborhoods and has direct knowledge of the capital city. If you're in the Helena area, give Jake Dubeck a call today, 406-465-5506. Jake Dubeck, proud to support the Montana State Minute. And Alex was talking about the MSU men. They had their 11-game winning streak snapped against Eastern Washington in overtime in a thrilling game. But they bounced back in a big way with a huge win over a talented Southern Utah team over the weekend. And MSU now 13 conference victories, the most in their history as a Big Sky Conference member. They also have 21 wins, which is the most they've ever had, and tied for the most they've ever had in the Big Sky Conference era. But I thought actually what went down this last weekend was very good for Montana State, to sort of have the pressure of the winning streak relieved with a loss, but then to bounce back with a good performance over a really good team. So what did you think of just it's the first time in a long time we've talked about the Bobcats bouncing back from a loss. What did you think of their ability to do it?
I think that is the way, and like I just said about the women, that's the mentality that the men's team carries as well. And I think that this entire year they have been wanting to make it back and dominate at the Big Sky tournament. I don't think that's on their mind. Obviously, they have the one game at a time mentality, but ultimately they are unsatisfied every single game. They want to come out with a win, and to be able to watch them have that 11-game winning streak was so exciting. And I agree with you. I think that, obviously I don't wish a loss upon the team by any means, but I do think it is, it takes that pressure off, like you said, of having that overtime loss to Eastern Washington. Obviously they would have probably wanted a different outcome. They would have, wanted to keep that going. But, and I don't even think it was about necessarily a lot of pressure building up. It was just what was a controversial game in that overtime loss, but also it was just a battle.
Oh, and Eastern Washington's a tough program that's been one of the best winners in the Big Sky over the last decade or so. And Montana State also is experiencing the dynamic of being kind of the marked team right now, too, as the league leader. That's right. Something new for Bobcat basketball. It's been a little while since that has been the case. Alex Eshelman joining us from SWX Montana Television as part of our Montana State Minute. And last thing for you, Alex, the Big Sky Indoor Track and Field Championships descend upon Bozeman. Have you covered one of these in person yet before?
I have not. I'm so excited.
You should be, because it is, especially from a TV perspective, it's a phenomenal spectacle. I mean, you have highlights going on all around you, all over the place, so you'll have more than enough content for sure. But I'll be there on Friday to cover this thing. We'll be doing Nuanez Now from the side, from Brick Breeden Fieldhouse next to the track there, so it'll be fun to catch up with everybody down there. But the two athletes that I'm going to have keen eyes on are a pair of Bozeman products, a pair of kids that grew up in Bozeman, Montana, who are now making waves on the national scene. I mean, Lucy Corbett has one of the top high jump marks in the United States at the college level. And Duncan Hamilton, I mean, I keep saying it, but he is among the great athletes in the state, period. Any sport, he's a phenomenal competitor. He's so fun to watch no matter what event he's in. So anything else that you maybe are looking forward to? Or what do you think of the fact that there's just a couple Bozeman kids leading the way for the Bobcats into the indoor championships?
I think it's so cool, Coulter, and both Duncan and Lucy are so enjoyable to talk to and get to know. And I've actually been able to cover a few of their meets here that they've held throughout the season, and been able to talk to them, follow them, see the accomplishments that they've been able to have throughout the year. And Duncan, even he said this last year, he takes so much pride in representing Bozeman in his hometown. So I'm just so proud of him to be able to see what he's accomplished, and he's just so calm. And so is Lucy too. When they're both performing, I asked Lucy the other day, I said, how do you calm your nerves before you go out and perform? And she said, well, I lay down on the ground and I close my eyes and I just take a deep breath and just try to block out all the noise. So I'm interested to see how it goes for them this weekend, but it's pretty apparent that this indoor team is one of the best they've had in a while.
She's Alex Usherman, SWX Montana Television. Alex, appreciate the time today. As always, thanks so much for being here. We'll talk to you next week and very much look forward to seeing you on Friday as well. But thanks for swinging by today.
Thanks, Coulter. Appreciate being on your show.
Montana State Minute presented by J&V Restaurant Supply as well as Jake Dubeck, your Montana Realtor. We'll get you all set up for the last couple days of this show for the week and maybe even have a little history lesson as well. Keep it right here. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio.
Here from the Stone. There's nothing like a pre-ski at the Stone. Warm up by the fire with a hot toddy or check out our happy hour daily from 3 to 6 p.m. 7 days a week. $2.50 Wells, $4 house wines, and specialty tap beers for $3. Or come in for lunch, dinner, and try our Alaskan halibut, our classic shepherd's pie. Delicious food and drinks are waiting for you at the Stone. Just a stone's throw away on North Reserve. Visit thestoneofaccord.com for info on specials. See you at the Stone.
Worried that your furnace might not make it through a tough winter? Don't get caught out in the cold this winter. For a limited time, buy one, get one at Garden City Plumbing and Heating. With 2 amazing offers available, you could receive a free furnace or a free whole home air purification system. These offers are available through the month of February, so take advantage of this promotion before it's too late. To learn more, call a Garden City Comfort Consultant at 728-5550.
Which would you rather be? An armchair quarterback or an on the edge of your cushy leather seat chair quarterback? Turf Club Sportsbook is now open at Northern Quest with the most modern, luxurious, and exciting sports wagering experience around. So you can bet, watch, and win like never before. Right here in the heart of the action. Turf Club Sportsbook, the ultimate game changer. Now open at Northern Quest.
Automated Living can help you get peace of mind that your property is secure. We use tools like cameras, monitored security systems, door locks, and personal notifications to connect you with your property like never before. Get a notification that someone has just unlocked the garage door, but you can see just who it is and can react by shutting off the alarm or turning on the lights for them. Or maybe it's someone you don't want in there, and the system will notify you and the authorities immediately. Peace of mind is just another way we can make your life easier at Automated Living.
Part of the glory of building a business comes from leaving a legacy to ensure your business continues thriving into the future. Have you asked yourself lately, what is your plan? Forming a personalized business succession plan is essential to know the passion you put into your business will carry on. Nick Tabor at Westpac Wealth is here to help you navigate all your business succession and retirement planning needs. Give Nick a call at 728-6699 and keep the spirit of possibility vibrant while making your future more tax efficient with a personalized business succession and retirement plan for you.
Tune in each week for the Montana State Minute to check in with Bobcats men's basketball coach, Danny Sprinkle.
So that's part of taking the next step as a program. You can't get comfortable with what you've done because nobody cares. Just because you beat Portland State and NAU on the road, if we come home this week and lose to Eastern and Idaho, that's all for naught. So it doesn't really matter. The goal is to continue getting better this week than we were last week.
Brought to you by your Montana Realtor, Jake Dubeck, and J&V Restaurant Supply.
Nuanez Now on ESPN Radio.
Won't you touch me, I won't let it go. Now I stand and I feel for more. Won't you touch me, I won't let it go.
What up, Montana? Welcome back. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, as well as SWX Montana Television. I usually sing the songs on the way back in because I think my microphone's off. I just realized that my mic was on, so hopefully you enjoyed my mumbling rendition. Days of Anew. What an awesome band. Hope you're having a great week. Hope you're having a great Wednesday. Time now for the final word presented by Eagle Satellite. Eagle Satellite wants to thank all current and former healthcare workers. They appreciate all you have done and all you continue to do. Call 406-728-9999 to get your free TV package with TV starting at $57.99 a month. And also be sure to ask about internet for $50 a month. Missed anything in the show today, you can always find it on the Nuanez Now podcast, which is proudly presented by Sportsbet Montana, as well as the Advocates. Tomorrow, fun show for you. We're going to have several different coaches swing by. And then, of course, Krista Redpath, our women's basketball commentator, will be here to go all the way around the Big Sky and women's hoops. Krista was in Arizona last week, but she joined us on the phone. But she'll be back in person, so it'll be fun to see Krista and sort of wrap up what's becoming a pretty wild stretch run in the Big Sky Conference on the women's side. We're also going to hear from Tracy Sanders from Southern Utah, the head coach for the women's basketball team there. We'll have that in hour number one. We'll also hear from Todd Simon, the head coach for the Southern Utah men's team, in hour number two. Sort of interesting because both of those people have been on our show many times in the past. And I'm not going to say never, because there certainly is an opportunity for Southern Utah to play some non-conference games with Big Sky schools. But Southern Utah, on the way out of the league, to join the WAC. So, the last appearances for those two, actually, I shouldn't say that either because we might have some audio, I'm almost certainly will, of those coaches from the Big Sky tournament. But last regular season matchups between the University of Montana and Southern Utah in Big Sky Conference play, the men are in Cedar City, the women are home with the Thunderbirds coming to town for the first time in years. It's been so long since I've seen the Southern Utah women in person outside of the Big Sky tournament. So it'll be fun to have those two coaches on. And then I also caught up, spent a good deal of time this morning with Chris Cobb, the associate head coach for the University of Montana men's team. And he and I did a radio spot. And then we also talked a lot about Travis DeCure, which that audio we'll save for you a little later on. But I'm doing a profile all about Coach DeCure and sort of his maintenance of the outstanding reputation of the coaching tree that has gone through the University of Montana. So excited to sit down with Travis and excited to sort of frame that story because I know it's something he takes a tremendous amount of pride in. He takes a tremendous amount of pride in the University of Montana being his alma mater and the fact that he is the guy that's sort of maintaining this legacy of phenomenal coaches to come through the program from Judd Heathcote through Mike Montgomery and Stu Morrill, Blaine Taylor, all the way through Larry Krzysztowiak, Wayne Tinkle, and now Travis DeCure. They all have ties that bind, and it's certainly one of the most fascinating coaching trees in anywhere in the country in men's college basketball. How about a little history lesson? If you've been following along, I have this cool book that my mom gave me that was printed in 1954, The 100 Greatest Sports Heroes by Mac Davis. It's life stories of the immortals of sports selected by America's top sports writers nearly 70 years ago. And I find it just so interesting to just turn through the pages and look at so many of the athletes that I know something about and also so many that I don't. So today's history lesson is about James B. Connolly, the first American Olympic champion. Fascinating to think more than 100 years ago when the Olympic Games were first revived. And James B. Connolly was the first Olympian from America to ever medal. So very cool. He did it in the original Olympic Games in Athens, Greece, way back in the late 1800s. So fascinating to think. He was a freshman at Harvard when he was competing in the Olympics. So amazing to see and remember that history. The other one, and I had not heard of James B. Connolly, so fun to learn about him. It's so funny to think of what these events, too. They talk about his training. He was a jumper, and he would jump in and out of 27 mackerel barrels in rapid succession, as this biography reads. So that's how he got ready for his Olympic debut, but pretty fun to remember him. The other one we'll get to today is Maureen Connolly. Mighty Little Mo is what the tagline is. And she was a phenomenal tennis player in the mid-1950s. So by the time she was 19, she was a 3-time women's national champion, and she was named the Woman Athlete of the Year multiple times back in the 1950s. So this is a full 2 decades short of Title IX, but certainly a trailblazer worth remembering. Maureen Connolly, Mighty Little Mo. It's our 10th anniversary here at ESPN Radio, so we're going to continue giving you 10 wings every 10 minutes each Wednesday throughout the month of February. It's part of our Wing It Wednesday celebration, 10th anniversary. 10 wings of the Desperado Sports Tavern and Grill. You want some? We got one more ticket for you. 406-888-1029. That's 888-1029. Call us right now. 888-1029. You want some wings to the Desperado Sports Tavern and Grill? Do it up. Call us right now. 406-888-1029. Thanks to all our great guests for swinging by. Fun show today. Love doing these Big Sky Documentary Film Festival interviews. Yeah, so educational and so interesting. So cool to meet so many different people from across the globe, honestly. People from all over the place. People that come from every corner of Earth here to Missoula. So very cool. Two notes I wanted to mention, and we kind of got washed up because we did have so many guests here today. One, Dane Broadhead has been named the head coach at Helena High for football. So that's interesting. Helena High has only had really 2 coaches in my life living in Montana. It was Tony Arnston for 25-plus years. And then most recently, Scott Evans, who retired at the end of this last season. So Dane Broadhead, the new coach at Helena High. So that'll be an interesting one. They've always been a strong program. And we'll see he can continue that legacy. And the other one, and I was texting with this guy, and we're efforting to get him on the show sooner than later, but Brock Coyle, former University of Montana linebacker who then went on to play for the Seattle Seahawks and the San Francisco 49ers in the NFL. Brock gave a big donation to the University of Montana football program for this rest and recovery room, which sounds pretty innovative and pretty cool. So cool for the Bozeman product and former NFL player to be giving back to his alma mater. And Brock's a good friend of mine. And we got to know each other very well during his time playing for the Grizz. So it'd be fun to have Brock back on and catch up with him. And congratulations. He told me today he's coming back from his honeymoon. So very cool. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio. We'll be back at it tomorrow, 4 p.m. In the meantime, have yourself a great Wednesday night. We'll see you then.